If there's one area we tend to compartmentalize, it's sexuality. Some of us see it as strictly physical. Some of us see it as dirty or bad. Some of us see it as mostly emotional. Many of us don't think about it at all. In this episode, I explain why sexuality covers all of the aspects we've already talked about: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual, and why it's a really important piece of the puzzle to consider in your personal growth journey, and how microdosing can help accelerate that. This is Aliveness, the show that explores how to create the changes you need to make to experience the sense of aliveness you're longing for, and how the power of plant medicine can accelerate that process for you. I'm your host, Alison Crosthwait, a guide and former psychotherapist, here to empower you to break out of your old patterns, shift into a new state of being, and ignite your aliveness. When I say sexual, I mean the energetic that bridges all the aspects. It's how each of us got here in physical form. So it's a physical act. We all can understand that piece. It's also emotional. There's little that can create emotional feelings between people to the same extent that sexual engagement can. It's mental, fantasy, and the relation of orgasm to clearing the mind are quite interesting inquiries. And it's spiritual. It's our desire. It fuels us. It's part of our passion. Now, when we think of sex, we tend to think of intercourse between people, and we tend to think of the genitals. And of course, this is included in sex. But when I talk about sexuality, what I mean is creation in general, life force energy. So saying that sex is only about sex between people is like saying all food is Italian. It's one very delicious piece of the puzzle. Much as I love pizza, it's not enough. Did I just say that? Is pizza not enough? No, it's not enough. Sexuality is our desire to create. It's our life force energy. Life is a series of pulses, desires, and pulses towards satisfaction, and release. Each breath is desire, satisfaction, and release. Every moment is a kind of orgasm. The energy of life is a pulsing orgasm. So I'm expanding the definition of sexuality. The form that it takes doesn't matter. As long as there's agreements and consent, the form your desire, satisfaction, and release takes doesn't matter. It's being connected to that. So, in fact, creating these podcasts is a very juicy sexual experience for me. Life is juicy, and we can desire so many different things. And being aware of that desire is what it's all about. So, first, I want to say something. In this world where there is so much sexual repression and trauma, I want to remind you of the idea of titration. For some people, you can go all the way right now, and I could say anything and you wouldn't flinch. And for some people, just speaking about sexuality has your heart beating and you're a little tense and you might want to turn off the episode. And if you want to turn off the episode, that's totally fine, of course. And in general, in relationship to all of the things I talk about, and it comes up particularly, so I'm mentioning it again, in sexuality, let yourself have a little experience and then come back to your zone of tolerance. Do not push yourself beyond the bounds of what you can be present to and receive, whatever amount that is. Again, true in all the aspects, extremely important when it comes to sexuality. Your pace, your timing, your desires. There's no way that this should look. And sexuality cannot be found by pushing yourself. It cannot. So I'm going to say something pretty bold here. Sexuality is like food. We like different things on different days. At different times in our life, we enjoy different foods. Our presence is a key piece of our enjoyment, as is taking our time. Strict definitions of what is sexy, what is not sexy, what is okay, what is not okay are things we impose on ourselves. Left to our naturalness, in freedom, the population will continue, there is no doubt. Probably in a more controlled way than it currently does. And our expressions of sexuality would be extremely varied. That's our natural. Someone who identifies as woman primarily, we've had so much imposed upon us that the unpacking of what we really want and what really feels good to us is multi-layered and it takes time. And because of how I have been raised and you have been raised, we enjoy our sexuality in certain ways. And those ways, I, for myself, am aware of strong conditioning that has created those ways. I've been shown from an early age what I can desire and what I cannot. And I'm still working on liberating myself, on freeing up that energy. So this is an exploration, and it has far-reaching consequences for our society. So whatever's coming to you, just go with it, journal. It's a pretty profound conversation. So why is sexuality so important? Well, it is how we got here. So it's literally the most powerful force that we work with because it's the one that brings us here to have this human experience. It's the liberation of the energy of desire and the energy of orgasm. That's what gets us here. Orgasm is oneness. The French call it the little death. Interesting. As we let go physically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, our orgasms become more powerful. And they are not just a physical experience. Sexual energy is the fuel to create all the kinds of children. The human ones, the book ones, the podcast ones, the business ones, the garden ones, the pet ones. It's the desire energy that fuels all creation. The freedom of our natural selves to enjoy and receive life is sexuality. Without sexuality, our energy is limited, repressed, or tamped down. Remember, we're not talking about sex as normally defined. There's no need for people to be driven by their genitals or demand any kind of genital satisfaction to be whole. Though for many of us, this is something that we want in our life, especially when we have healed the ways in which we have not been allowed to connect to that kind of desire. So for many people who haven't been safe, desire gets tamped off. And while there's no need to have the desire for genital sexuality, it is an unleashing of power. And in a really tender, careful, safe container, I can't say that enough, there is a lot of healing possible. I also want to mention that the repression of sex has caused much of the sideways expressions of it that are harmful. So the liberation of sexual energy is the way forward to more safety for all of us. But of course, it has to be done in a way that promotes safety for every being on the planet. So, you know that feeling after you win a big award or have the best sex ever or finish something you've been trying to finish for a while, that on top of the world feeling, that is the sexual life force energy feeling I'm talking about. So, how does microdosing support this? Now, the first thing I want to say is you don't have to go into sexual healing in your first microdosing cycle if it's not for you, but it's an important piece of the puzzle. So, microdosing supports us in reconnecting with our desire in all its forms. So, it's really going to let you know, what do you want? What do you feel? And very often, this comes into the sexual realm or the creative realm. I repeatedly hear from clients a kind of wildness that emerges, a wild dancing, a feeling of desire, a connection to their younger self, an increase in libido, a sexual reawakening in a relationship or on their own, a reconnection that can then be harnessed in service of what they desire. In Expand with my clients, which is a 3-month microdosing program that helps you step fully into the life you desire by going through a full microdosing cycle. We have pleasure practices. One of them is spending 10 days focusing on pleasure and enjoying yourself every day. The pleasure practices, they can start with a square of chocolate, kissing your dog on the head. This is all a continuum. And so getting to genital sexual healing is one piece, one small piece. Remember, it's just Italian food of the ability to enjoy our lives and have pleasure on our terms. And there's also a fantasy mind map that's really powerful. The reason I do this is to get the pleasure pathways moving because this works with the medicine to get you going in the direction of life, which is in the direction of your intentions. So, what happens when we do sexual healing? As we do this kind of unlocking of vitality and energy and sexual energy, we liberate our energy and we have more juice, more vitality. We can do more. We have a kind of higher vibration. We've let go of trying to make things the way they are. You know, when someone's got a ton of questions about something and they're trying to understand it, get apart, and, well, I don't know. Well, it's not very sexy, right? Not that there's anything wrong with the analytical. Of course, sometimes that's us. But as our sexual energy increases, we are surrendering more. We're not trying to control things or understand them as much as we're allowing life to flow through us and knowing in our body what's right for us. We're more open, there's more desire, there's more possibilities. And then, of course, there is also the mind checking in, but in balance with the rest. Sexual healing amps up creation, all kinds of creation. So I had a client who said to me, she's in her late 30s, and she said, Sex is over for me and not interested." And this was causing problems in her relationship, but this was her truth. And I supported her in her truth. And we stayed with her and gave full attention to everything she wanted. And we decided she would have a conversation with her partner and say, "I can't right now." And she was doing very deep medicine work with me. And she really stayed with it with the intention of working on her relationship, but also honoring where she was right now, which she did not feel she had the energy for sexuality in the form he wanted it. She stayed with herself with intention, did a little bit of reading, investigating, breathing, some exercises. And in the next ceremony we did, poof, sexual energy. And she and her husband were able to re-find a whole level of connection they've been looking for. Now that's really cool. But the other thing that's really cool, her business exploded. She all of a sudden had this magnetic social media presence. And I was like, oh my God, what a shift. So the unlocking of sexual energy unlocks us. This is not about pleasing somebody else or being what we think we should be. This is about unlocking what is true for us. And it takes courage to do this because she had to say, I'm going to stay with what's true for me, even though what's true for me right now is I don't want anything to do with my partner. That's scary because what's the end game in that? But to be most committed to your truth and the sanctity of your body is so important. So remember, as I always say, there's one next best step. This is not a to-do list. But if, as I do with my clients, we discover what's the juiciest, most energy gain step next, physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, sexual. If the sexual is where you want to focus, no to-do list, but here's some possibilities of things that might come up. Pleasure practices, dance, fantasies, looking at fantasies and allowing them just for you, breath, exploration of different identities for yourself and different sexual personas, making agreements and being clearer about the agreements in your life around sexuality and creation, which frees up energy. Because when something isn't clear, a lot of energy goes to the anxiety of what we might gain or lose. So being really, really, really clear and okay with all your agreements is really important. Trauma work is a big part of sexuality. Titration, going easy, going tender. Going easy, going tender. And sex magic, which can be as simple as visualizing your desires when you have an orgasm. And before we finish, I want to say one thing about orgasm. So there is genital orgasm, which is wonderful. And as you do medicine work, as you go deeper, you will discover you will have more access to the pleasure of being alive. And everybody gets this differently. Before we finish, I want to mention full body orgasm. There are pathways where we can experience pleasure that for me took a lot of medicine work to access. But there are paths, so it may or may not for you. You may have it like this. It may take some time. It may be different for you. It's different for everyone. But I want to share the possibility that with just a thought, like just there, we can send orgasm through our body. So I can feel a little bit of pleasure right now in a certain part of my body. And I'm like, oh, that was nice. We can live a fully orgasmic life with full body orgasm in just a moment by allowing ourselves to be open to the beauty of a bird. Oh, that was beautiful. You see, it doesn't have to be genital orgasm, and sexuality is not about just the genitals. It's about running pleasure through our body and enjoying life. And medicine work is extremely supportive of us being able to just in a moment be taken aback by the sun, by beauty, by anything, and enjoying it. Sexuality is connecting to our wanting. And connecting to it at the sexual level gives us the power to create. It supports our physical health, emotional flow, and expression. It clears our minds and connects us to life and each other. Accessing our sexuality brings color and vitality to our lives. And the medicine supports us in this exploration. If this episode of Aliveness resonated with you, I would be so grateful if you would leave a review on your podcast app. Reviews make it possible for me to connect with more people just like you who are looking for inspiration and guidance on their journey to create a full, juicy life filled with aliveness. Be sure to subscribe so you get all the juicy episodes to come. And if you have a friend who is deep into their personal growth and healing journey, share this podcast with them too. Now go out and experience the aliveness that's here for you today. If what I'm sharing in this episode is resonating with you, take the next step on your journey and join me for a free workshop where I'll share how to get results with microdosing, what the process looks like, and answer your biggest questions like, is it safe and will I feel high? You can register for this experience by visiting AlisonCrossthwait.com/microdosingtalk.